Since they got promoted into the Premier League, Brentford have confounded all expectations, and fundamental to their success has been the role of set pieces. In fact, Brentford are so good at set pieces that the question becomes, are they the best set piece takers in the world? Since 2021-22, Brentford have scored 30 set piece goals over the course of 2 seasons. This puts them in the top 3 for goals scored from set pieces over this period, 1 goal behind Liverpool and 2 behind Manchester City. Now, if you compare how many set piece plays these 3 teams have taken during that period, you'll see that Brentford have taken the fewest set pieces with 594, just behind Liverpool's 598 and a long way behind Man City's 658. That means that Brentford have scored a goal every 19.8 set-piece plays during their time in the Premier League, making them slightly more effective from set pieces than Manchester City, who scored every 20.6 over the same period, and slightly less efficient than Liverpool, who scored every 19.3. And of course, Brentford would point out that their rivals at the top of the set-piece table have a natural advantage over them, with some of the most dangerous players from set-piece scenarios. Erling Haaland, for example, or Virgil van Dijk. But Brentford's level of output is made all the more impressive when you compare them to the other teams promoted into the Premier League during the same time frame. When Brentford were promoted in 2021, they were joined in the Premier League by Watford and Norwich. The next season, those 2 teams combined scored just over half the 16 set-piece goals that Brentford managed, with Watford picking up 6 and Norwich 3. Of the promoted sides this season, Fulham have kept pace with Brentford, picking up 12 goals to Brentford's 14, but even Alexander Mitrovic can't bridge that gap. So, how have Brentford managed to master set pieces? Well, here are 4 areas to look at. 1. Having a plan. The most important aspect is that they have an overall plan for each game. Of course, every team will have a plan for their set-piece approach, but there is an internal coherence to Brentford set pieces across the course of a match, all carefully choreographed by Bernardo Cueva, their set-piece coach since 2020. For example, in a recent game against Newcastle, Brentford used the same basic structure for all of their corners in the first half, with Aaron Hickey positioned on the byline and another player situated on the corner of the box to receive a short pass. These players only received the ball once in a couple of very specific set-piece routines, but the fact that each of Brentford's corners in that half used the same shape indicates that there was a clear plan in place across the course of the game to allow these specific routines to be fitted in at some point. Once those routines had been used, Brentford switched their shape at corners in the second half. Now, if you watch their set pieces in game-by-game blocks, it's clear that Brentford's approach to them is based around a few main ideas. These ideas are usually focused on a key weakness of the opposition. And in fact, if you analyse Brentford's opposition for a couple of their games before they face them, these weaknesses will become apparent. It may be that they struggle to defend in certain areas, or can have a vulnerability against overloads or certain runs. Each of their set pieces in a match is designed to exploit these weaknesses. Looking at them on a match-by-match basis, it's clear that Brentford don't consider set pieces as isolated events, but as part of a series of routines that they can plan as a whole for maximum effect. 2. Deception. A consequence of playing this planned approach is that Brentford have a level of deception in their set-piece play. If there are a number of different possible routines that can be played out of the same structure, it becomes hard for opponents to read them. Brentford also like to employ a swarming technique in the box, which allows them to conceal each routine until the last minute, often causing confusion. To do this, Brentford will put the majority of their outfield players in a very small space in the box to make it impossible for their opponents to read what their individual roles are. Most opponents will have a number of zonal or man markers in their defensive set-piece setup, but Brentford make it nearly impossible to do this. Just before the kick is taken, Brentford players will fan out and look to create confusion, opening up space that can be exploited and producing free players who end up unmarked. 3. Timing. Timing is another important aspect. When they're taking set pieces, they make sure they are the protagonists, ensuring the ball and the players end up at the right place at the right time, meaning that their opponents are always a step behind. We've already mentioned Brentford's 2 short passing options in the first half against Newcastle. By playing the ball to a short passing option who then returns it, Brentford are able to manipulate the timing of their routines. Their players know it's going to happen, but their opponents don't. This buys them time to move the opposition defenders out of the way or get their own attackers into the box on a delay, and all of this makes it harder to defend against. And 4. Innovation. Most importantly, because they treat set pieces as fundamental to their play style, Brentford are always innovating and looking for new ways to get ahead. In overloading the box, sometimes putting all their remaining outfield players in there, Brentford are going against decades-long principles of set-piece theory. But by planning for it defensively, they are able to find upside by getting more attackers into dangerous areas than their opponents without leaving themselves open on the counter. Another area where they've innovated is in using the corner taker as a potential threat. Look out for corners where Brentford send the ball to the edge of the box for a clipped pass back to the original corner taker. This produced a goal for them against Leicester City last season. So, by treating set pieces as a fundamental aspect of football, Brentford are probably the best set piece takers in the world right now. And looking at the Premier League table, the results are clear to see. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including journalists dedicated to each Premier League team, so every fan gets the coverage they deserve, not just the big clubs. And you can try it for free now for 30 days. See the link in the description.